After 15 years in that part of the world, it all seems to be taking off for us, finally, in both countries, for different reasons, but both of the countries now very much behind us and taking off.
Hello and welcome to the Assay TV, where today we're at 121's mining investment event in Cape Town, where today I'm joined with Harry Anagnosteris Adams, the Executive Chairman of KEFI Copper and Gold. KEFI Copper and Gold are a London-listed company focused on advancing projects in the Arabian-Nubian Shield. Hi Harry, welcome.
Pleasure.
Good to see you again.
Thank you.
So can you just give us a quick recap of the company, just to remind our viewers about KEFI?
Well, as we stand today, we're a highly advanced explorer developer in Saudi Arabia, more or less at the front of the queue of the mining renaissance of that country, and at the same time a similar position in Ethiopia, which is also taking off for mining in that country. So we're like a two-horse race, and we happen to be at the front of the pack in both countries in what's being a very strongly pushed sector for both countries.
So can you tell us a bit about your projects in both of those jurisdictions?
Yeah, we picked the area, that region, for geological reasons. It's known as the Arabian-Nubian Shield, and anyone who grew up in the mining industry in Australia grew up with a boom, if you like, in the 1970s, 80s, 90s, in the belts of Australia that are actually directly analogous to this part of the world, the Arabian-Nubian Shield, the two sides of the Red Sea. And so we bring with us the legacy of lessons learned and experiences on the same rock types. And we see the potential, we can visualize what's going to happen, but geopolitics has sort of blocked it to date. But to cut a long story short, after 15 years in that part of the world, it all seems to be taking off for us, finally, in both countries, for different reasons, but both of the countries now very much behind us and taking off.
Excellent. So how satisfying is it to work in the frontier markets? I know things can take a while and a little bit of an extra push at times. What are the upsides of that? Satisfying?
Well, you know, what differentiates man from the ape is the tolerance for delayed gratification. And that tolerance for delayed gratification is tested beyond the pale at times in frontier markets.
I'm sure.
So, you know, realistically, with the benefit of hindsight, I would say that 4 or 5 years up to about a year ago was pretty unproductive for us.
Were they quite rigid, like the governments?
Well, you know, different reasons, different countries. But Ethiopia, when we arrived there, you could get things done quite quickly, and then it started to wobble and security became an issue and it slowed us down. Now that changed about a year ago, but there was sort of 4 lost years in some sense. And we learned from the experience. We've developed deep relationships and trust because we were resilient and we stuck at it. But it was 4 tough years in retrospect. That's history now, but you asked the question. And Saudi Arabia, analogous, there were 4 lost years there because of regulatory overhauls, but that's taken off. So, you know, for different reasons, frontier markets are not ready for mining. That's why they're called frontier markets. And you have to have a hell of a staying power and tenacity. You can't always get the timing right because so many cards are not in your hands. But if you've got the staying power and you've got the support of your main stakeholders to do it, you can end up in a wonderfully entrusted position at the front of the queue and achieve things with potential rewards that make, let's call it, mature markets pale into insignificance. That's why we do it.
So you're obviously very experienced and knowledgeable in this area. What recommendations would you give to any new companies trying to break into those frontier markets?
Well, most people watch to see 1 or 2 successes.
Yeah, of course.
And there's a whole bunch of people around the world watching us. And all I can say is that watch this space. You know, it is taking off. We'll demonstrate that ourselves over the next months and years. And I'm sure there'll be a whole bunch of people jump on board and say, we knew you could do it, and boy, you're an overnight success, and all that sort of, you know, shallow compliment. But that's what happens in life, right?
Yeah, of course. Well, it sounds like you've had an interesting few years, to say the least, all the best for KEFI Copper and Gold. I'm sure we'll be hearing a lot about you. And thank you for joining us today.
I appreciate the chance.